Hey, Hockey Nuts. Just looking at some of the games that have taken place over the past couple days. Haven't really had time to put together anything special for the past couple days. Just been busy and all. But just want to take a look back at Wednesday and Thursday's games of this week. And let's just review everything that's happened since I've last done one of these. So let's get into it, starting with Wednesday's games. And in order to do so, I've got to switch over my screen to show you my desktop. All right, so here we go. All right, there we are. All right, starting with Wednesday's games, there were 3 games on Wednesday, and the final scores are already posted there, so let's get into it. All right, first and foremost, the Calgary-Buffalo game. Calgary comes out with the huge 5-1 win. That snaps a 4-game losing streak for Calgary. They come out with the 5-1 win. Rittich in goal for Calgary, gets 25 saves. Goals by Bennett, Giordano, Hamilton, Jankowski, and Monahan. Buffalo gets goals from Nelson, Johnson, and Leonard split duties in net. Johnson came in and allowed 4 goals before he was pulled for Leonard, who finished the game. And Leonard ended up with 18 saves right along with Johnson. So all in all, pretty much a snoozer for the most part in this game, because Calgary's falling like a rock in the playoff race out west, and Buffalo is already out and probably will not be back. Well, not probably. Definitely won't be back. All right, let's take a look at the next game. Pittsburgh at Philadelphia. Pittsburgh gets the 5-2 win here. This is a game that could have or should have been better than it was. I was expecting this game to be very good, since both teams are right neck and neck in the playoffs. Both are on the good side of the playoff line, but Philadelphia is definitely the one with most to lose in this one, and unfortunately for them, they did end up losing. So 5-2 was the final. Jari in net for Pittsburgh with 26 saves in the winning effort. Mrazek in net for Philadelphia with 23 saves. Goals for Pittsburgh by Kessel, Malkin, Alexiak, and Sherry. And goals by Philadelphia by Konecny and Voracek. And with this win, Pittsburgh officially takes over first place in the Metropolitan Division. All right, so let's take a look at the next game, or the final game of the night, actually. That was Arizona at Vancouver. This one here, I mentioned in my last video that really wasn't much interest for anybody, or me in particular, but anybody that was watching playoff teams, because both these teams are well out of the playoff picture. But Arizona ends up coming out with the 2-1 win in this one. Kemper in net for Arizona with 16 saves. Markstrom in net for Vancouver with 32 saves. Jokinen with the lone goal for Vancouver. And Keller and Stepan got the goals for Arizona. And Stepan scored his goal pretty late in the game. 58 seconds left in the third period, to be exact. So that game was tied right to the end, and then Stepan gets the goal to win it in regulation for Arizona. So not a whole lot of earth-shattering results from this night's slate of games. It was only a 3-game night in the NHL. Pretty much everything went as expected for me. No real earth-shattering stuff there. So that's why I really didn't need to do its own video. But let's move ahead to Thursday's games, where there was 12 games on the schedule on Thursday night. 3 of which went to overtime. 2 of those ended up in a shootout, and let's get into it. Starting with the first game of the night, the Boston Bruins hosting the Philadelphia Flyers. Boston comes out with the 3-2 win in that one. Lyon with 24 saves in net for Philadelphia, and Rask 31 saves in net for Boston. Philadelphia's goals scored by Voracek and Laterra. Boston's goals scored by Nash, Giunta, and Marchand. And the game winner actually came very late in this one as well. 22 seconds left, to be exact, in the third period when Boston, Brad Marchand scored the game-winning goal for Boston. I thought this one was headed to overtime, but Boston scored that late goal in the game, and that really put a dagger in the hearts of Philadelphia fans everywhere, because Boston doesn't really need these points. Philadelphia needs them badly. And unfortunately for them, they came out with nothing. But just a couple of notes from that game. Of course, Marchand got the game winner. That's his third straight game, or that Marchand has scored the game winner either late in the game or in overtime for Boston. So he's definitely on fire. Gionta's goal was his first as a Bruin. And now the Bruins are 5-0 without Patrice Bergeron. And of course, this was the first game that David Backes had to sit out for Boston. So Boston's without a bunch of key players. Of course, Tuukka Rask had missed a game or two, but he is now back. So Boston just, it's that next man up mentality for them, and they just keep coming up with win after win after win. On the Philadelphia side of things, they have now lost 5 straight, and they have now lost 10 of their last 13 games against Boston. So this series has definitely gone one-sided in recent years. All right, let's move ahead to the next game. Winnipeg Jets beat New Jersey 3-2. Hellebuck, 41 saves in net for Winnipeg. Schneider, 21 saves in net for New Jersey. Goals for Winnipeg by Lane Armia, and Ehlers. And the goals from New Jersey by Palmieri and Hischier. And this game started out a little bit interesting for Winnipeg in that they had to use an emergency backup goalie because Hutchinson's flight, he had just been called up. His flight to New Jersey was delayed due to the weather that was happening in the Northeast. So they ended up having to sign a local kid out of New Jersey to wear the pads during warm-up and such. And Hellebuck played the whole game. Hutchinson came in and took over partway through the game. He finally showed up at the arena and ended up taking over. And, of course, Zane Kalemba is the name of the kid that was the emergency goalie. And he ended up starting the game on the bench. And then when Hutchinson came in, Hutchinson took over. So another name for the record books for emergency backup goalies there. And other notes for Winnipeg, that is their 4th straight win and 9th in their last 11 games. And Hellebuck's win actually sets a franchise record for Winnipeg/Atlanta for wins in a season. So congratulations to Hellebuck in that one. All right, enough of that game. Let's move on to Colorado at Columbus. This one went the distance, went into overtime. Varlamov in net, 39 saves for Colorado. Bobrovsky, 23 saves in net for Columbus. Goals for Colorado by Barrie, Soderberg, and Landeskog. Soderberg with 2 goals in this game. And goals for Columbus by Jenner, Vanek, who also had his first 2 as a Columbus Blue Jacket. Werenski and Seth Jones got the overtime winner in this one to give Columbus the 5-4 win. And this game was a bit of a wild game because Blue Jackets at one point had trailed 2-0 in this game, then came roaring back, and by the end of the second period, they were up 4-2. And then, of course, Colorado came storming back again, tied the game, sent it to overtime, and that's where we came up with the 5-4 win. So this game was just all over the place tonight, or that night. And so it was just one of those games where both teams need the points badly, but neither one didn't seem to want to jump up and grab them because this game just kept going back and forth all night long. And just one last note on Colorado. This is Andrew Ghetto's first game back after missing 28. He didn't figure in any of the scoring, but Colorado fans should feel good that Andrew Ghetto is back in the lineup for Colorado. All right, let's move on to the next game. Buffalo at Ottawa. Probably one of the more snoozer games of the night for me. Buffalo ends up with the 4-3 shootout win, with Josephson getting the shootout winner for Buffalo. Leonard with 37 saves in the winning effort for Buffalo. Anderson, 31 saves in net for Ottawa. Goals by Scandella, Reinhart, and Wilson for Buffalo. And Dzingel got 2, with Chabot getting the other goal for Ottawa. And with the scoring in this one, Ottawa got all 3 of their goals in the second period, whereas Buffalo got a goal in the first, goal in the second, goal in the third, and then they get credit for the overtime goal or the shootout goal as far as winning that game. So Buffalo's scoring was balanced through the whole game, whereas Ottawa kind of just threw all their goals into one period, the second period in that game. All right, let's move on to Vegas at Detroit. Vegas has kind of been sputtering a little bit of late, but on this night they kind of put things all together and ended up getting the 4-0 shutout win. Fleury in net for Vegas with 28 saves in the winning effort, and Howard for Detroit with 28 saves of his own. Unfortunately, Detroit wasn't able to put any goals on the board, and Vegas got 4 goals, 2 by Tuck, 2 by Aiken. And for Fleury, that's his 3rd shutout of this season so far. And Detroit has now lost 5 straight after this game. So they weren't going to make the playoffs anyway, but this just pretty much seals the deal for them as they continue to slide further and further down the standings. All right, next up, Rangers at Tampa Bay. This one pretty much went the way I expected, at least in terms of the final score. Tampa Bay comes out with the 5-3 win in this one. Vasilevsky, 27 saves in the winning effort. Lundqvist, 27 saves before he was pulled, and Georgiev got 13 saves with his own. And if you look at it, 27 saves for Lundqvist, 13 saves for Georgiev, you'd think that Lundqvist played most of the game. That's not the case. He had 27 saves halfway through the game. It was a little, I think they pulled him with like 12 something left in the second period. So it wasn't even the halfway point yet of the game when they pulled Lundqvist, and they already had 31 shots on him. Lundqvist gave up 4 goals and 31 shots in about a period in 12 minutes. So the Rangers clearly didn't show up to play tonight, and it shows because Tampa Bay came out flying, and they jumped out to a big, huge lead. And then, of course, that forced the Rangers to pull Lundqvist. Georgiev comes in, and the scoring pace kind of slowed down, or the shooting pace slowed down, because in the next basically 32, 33 minutes, the second half of the game plus a couple minutes, Georgiev only faced 13 or only had 13 more saves. And I think he gave up 1 goal. I don't have the stats right in front of me, but anyway, yeah. So you really can't put the blame on Lundqvist in this one. This is a total team effort. If you're giving up 31 goals before the game's even half over, it's a total team problem. But anyway, goals for the Rangers by Spooner, Zuccarello, and Hayes. Goals by Tampa Bay from Paquette, Earn, Cirelli, Kunitz, and Johnson. Tampa Bay has now won 4 in a row and are 8-0-1 in their last 9 games. So the rich get richer, I guess. It's just Tampa Bay is so good. They really are. It's almost sickening to watch how good they are. All right. Speaking of good, let's look at the next game. Florida playing Montreal in Florida. And Florida comes out with the dominating 5-0 win. Lindgren in net for Montreal, 27 saves. No goals for Montreal scores. Luongo with 40 saves in the winning effort, with goals by Huberdeau, Haley, Bukestad, Dadonov, and Trocheck. The one takeaway I have from this game is, well, a couple, really. Number one, Montreal, their defense has just been pretty weak as of late. And, of course, their offensive struggles have continued
to be an issue for them. They're continuing again. They go on these long stretches of multiple games where they only score 0 goals, 1 goal, 2 goals, 1 goal, one. So whatever Montreal does during the offseason to fix their team, they've got to address their scoring. I think the defense will fix itself. Well, they do need to look at defensemen, but a lot of their defensive issues will fix itself when Carey Price comes back 100% healthy. But for now, they're going without Price, and they're just struggling on all facets of their game. Just been a rough season if you're a Montreal Canadiens fan. All right, let's moving on. Nashville, 4-2 over Anaheim. Rinne, 31 saves in the winning effort for Nashville. Gibson, 24 saves in the losing effort for Anaheim. Raquel with both goals for Anaheim. Smith, Johansson, Watson, and Arvidsson get the goals for Nashville. And I was watching a little bit of this game, and I'm just amazed every time I watch at how good Nashville's fans are at just keeping the energy up throughout the entire game. Of course, it helps when your team wins all the time, too, to keep your energy up. But kudos to Nashville's fans for being the way they are. I wish more teams would have fans that are as vocal and loud as Nashville's are. One good takeaway for Anaheim in this game is Rickard Rakell has quietly put together a 5-game point streak. So kudos to him on that. Oh, and speaking of point streaks, I failed to mention it in the New Jersey Winnipeg game. Taylor Hall's point streak has come to an end. He is no longer, his 26-game point streak is over. He didn't get any points against Winnipeg, so that whole story has now died. And kudos to him. It's one of the better point streaks that we've seen in recent years. So the days of 40-plus games or 50-plus game point streaks I don't think are going to happen anymore these days. So I think Gretzky's record is safe. But anyway, but Taylor Hall, I'm sure, will be right back on the score sheet in their next game for sure. All right, let's move on to our hometown Carolina Hurricanes going to Chicago and beating them in regulation 3-2. Darling with 22 saves in the nets for Carolina. Berube, 37 saves in the losing effort for Chicago. Goals by Yurko and Sharp for Chicago, and Slavin, Williams, and Aho with the goals for Carolina. And this game, too, was tied 2-2 late in the game until Aho scored. It was like 3 or 4 minutes left in the game when he finally scored, and Chicago poured everything they had at Darling and just couldn't get it by him. Total team effort for Carolina in this game. It's good to see Darling get the win. He's been struggling all year. And one difference I noticed about this game over previous games, and I don't know if it's the fact that Chicago just simply isn't a very good team this year, or if Carolina put things together, or a little bit of both. But overall, Carolina played a very good defensive game in this game. They had the lead most of the night. They had a 2-1 lead before Chicago came back and tied it. And then, of course, Carolina came up with the 3-2 lead in that one. So Carolina led at times throughout the night, but all in all, I think it was a good overall team defense game for Carolina. And Darling gets to win in his hometown. He had a lot of friends and family in attendance. It's good to see him get back on the winning side of things. And let's hope that the good feelings he felt tonight end up carrying over into his next game and the next game after that. Because the struggles that Darling has had all season, I don't think it has anything to do with his physical abilities, because everybody agrees that he has the capability of being a good goaltender. I think everything with Darling right now is mental, and once he gets all that solved, I think, and things settle down, I think he'll be back to the Darling that the Carolina Hurricanes hoped they had when they signed him to that long contract extension over the summer. All right, let's move on to the next game. We have New York Islanders at Edmonton. We're getting to the late games now. Gibson, 35 saves in the losing effort for the Islanders. Talbot, 30 saves in the winning effort for Edmonton. Goals for the Islanders. Hickey, which is the only goal that the Islanders would score, outside the shootout, of course. And Edmonton with the 2-1 win in the shootout. So goals in regulation time. McDavid got the goal for Edmonton, and then he also got a shootout goal. It's actually the shootout winner is the goal he made, and the move he made on Gibson was like, I think the announcer said it best, was like, sometimes you think it's just not fair at how good McDavid is. I mean, he just completely deked Gibson completely out of his jock on that one. And unfortunately, we're not going to get to see Connor McDavid in the playoffs this year. He would be fun to watch because he is a very fun player to watch regardless. And he basically took that team on his back last night, and he just carried them all the way through that game. He got the lone goal in the game. He got the shootout goal. He even had a penalty shot opportunity in overtime, and he almost scored on that. He hit the post on that one. So it was one of those games where, it was the Connor McDavid show, and unfortunately for Edmonton, that's pretty much all they've had all season is just a bunch of games with the Connor McDavid show. And if he doesn't do a lot of scoring, then basically, that team doesn't do anything. So hopefully they'll address those issues over the summer and figure out how to get back to winning again, because last year when they made the playoffs, that was a fun team to watch. All right, let's move on to the next game. All right, LA hosting Washington. LA comes out with the 3-1 lead, 3-1 win in that one. Grubauer was in net for Washington. Quick was in net for LA. Goals by Vrana for Washington, Carter, Lewis, and Clifford for LA. And for Lewis, that was his first game back. I think he missed, 20... Well, he missed a couple of months anyway. I'm not sure exactly how many games he missed, but he's been out hurt, and he comes back, first game back, gets the game winner for LA, so kudos to him on that one. Clifford got the empty netter in that one. I didn't see any of that game because I went to bed rather early last night. Trouble with being an East Coast East Coast person is, these late games sometimes get a little bit too late to stay up. So all I know is what I saw on the score sheet. But LA comes out with a much-needed 3-1 win over Washington. And, they basically maintain their spot in the playoffs by winning that game. All right, and the final game of Thursday night, Sharks hosting the Blues. Blues are in absolute free fall right now with as far as the standings are concerned. And to add insult to injury, they have yet another goaltender issue. Backup Carter Hutton was a late scratch in this one, so they had to call on a emergency backup goaltender, which is actually the second of this evening, second team other than Winnipeg to use a emergency backup. And of course, they're on the road, so they had to find a local San Jose kid to suit up for them. And a kid by the name of Benjamin Wexler ended up being the emergency backup goalie in this one. So Allen went the distance in net for St. Louis with 34 saves, but unfortunately St. Louis didn't score any goals in this game. And San Jose came out with the win 2-0. Goals by Boddicker and Hurdle for the Sharks, and Jones got 16 saves in the winning effort for San Jose. And just a little side note on St. Louis, Braden Shen played his 500th game on this night. All right, so that's all the games I had for Wednesday and Thursday. Basically, almost every team in the league played at least one game during those 2 days. And if you haven't noticed, the standings are behind me. So if you were to peer behind me, in fact, I can switch back. Yeah, you should be able to see them better. These are the updated standings going into Friday night's games. And speaking of Friday night, let's go ahead and take a look at Friday night's games. Okay, here we are. All right, so I've actually got a sheet up that has Friday and Saturday's games on it, but the top row here on the top is Friday night's games. You have Detroit at Columbus, Calgary at Ottawa, Anaheim at Dallas, and Minnesota at Vancouver. So these are the 4 games on Friday night, and as far as what I expect to happen, I expect Columbus to beat Detroit in this one because Detroit's been struggling lately. I'm expecting Calgary probably to win against Ottawa, or at least they should, because Calgary is the one of the two teams that are still desperately trying to make the playoffs. Ottawa is too far out to even be considered. This game should be the game of the night, as far as I'm concerned. Two teams that are in the battle of, or in the middle of a playoff run, and they have a lot to play for in this game. So both Anaheim and Dallas are battling for playoff spots at this time. And then, of course, Minnesota, Vancouver, I fully expect Minnesota to come away with the win in that one. So that is all I have for today's video. And as always, let me know what you think down in the comments below. And if you like this video, click like. If you want some more of this kind of video, go ahead and click subscribe. I'm always encouraged by folks as the subscriber number grows. It makes me want to do more and more of these videos. So until the next one, we'll talk to you later.